every time that this goes on. But our next one is Mr. James Davison. So, for those of you who don't know, and I probably should have read this off before, Jen Lewis for School Board District 7. James Davison is for County Commissioner District 6, and I have been constantly impressed with every presentation he's done about how knowledgeable and is about issues related to the position that he's running for. So,
thank you very much. I think everybody in here has just about heard me talk at one time or another. And I'm Jim Davison. I'm a retired ER physician. What the hell is an ER physician doing running for county commission? I don't need the job, I don't need the money. But I think everybody in this room, because you're here, and thanks AFFP for the room today, and thank you RLC for the endorsement, it meant a lot. And for those of you who haven't gone through the interview, go through it. And for no other reason, it'll hone your own thinking as to why you're running in this race. Not necessarily for the endorsement, but it's for you. Because you have to remind yourself of why you're actually doing what you're doing. And so thank you very much for that. The reason I'm running is, and it's not news to anybody here, I'm sick and tired of being lied to. I mean, I have been involved in politics at least since 1995. And I've served on multiple boards, the Indian County Healthcare Board, Emergency Medical Planning Council. I've ridden in the ambulances, I've ridden in the police cars, I've been in on drug busts, I've sat on the Indigent Healthcare Board and went to the federally qualified health centers. I've worked in the ERs. I've seen my share of headshots, I can tell you that right now. I don't need to see any more. The reason I'm running is they're getting ready to lie to you again. They've already figured it out. They will keep coming back over and over and over again until they get what they want. Unless somebody stands up and says no. And the only way to fight them is to stand up and get the facts and the truth out. It's the only way you can defeat these people. That's why you don't get the data and the actual facts from the newspapers or the television or the radio, most radios anyway. You don't even get it from your homeowners association or your CDD. Nobody is telling anybody the truth. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Everybody's familiar with the All for Transportation fiasco and how they were lying and all that stuff. And now they've got $590 million of ours. And the governor signed a legislation, and they're supposed to send it back. Some goes to sales tax holiday, some goes to the lawyers, some goes to fixing transportation, but not a penny has moved yet. They still have $590 million. And everybody's pissed off. What if I were to tell you that the county, your own county, has $400 million of yours, and it can't be spent on anything else but Indigent Healthcare Fund, but it's sitting in a bank. And they're taking $100 million almost out of your pockets every single year for the last 2 years at least, and increasing. In 2 more years, it'll be $600 million. They will have more money in the bank than the All for Transportation sales tax that everybody's pissed off about. And nobody even knows about the Indigent County Healthcare Fund. They just keep taking it in. It's unbelievable. And they know it. The administration downtown knows that they have this money. Yet when it came time for the workshops for the budget and the future of the county, they conveniently put the discussion for the Indigent County Healthcare Fund 3 days after the deadline to put it on the ballot. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't an accident. And that's why I'm running. Because if people like me and people like you don't get up and start telling the truth and holding these people accountable, they're going to get whatever they want. And it's going to get worse. I'm on my 3rd opponent. Rico was the first one. I like to say you got smart enough and switched races, but my second opponent, Christine Miller, they gave her $500,000. 2 people gave her 90% of her money. 2 people gave her $400,000. and she got out of the race. You don't do that if you're winning. And so they finally got another guy. They had to go through 3 or 4 other people before they got to him to accept to run against me. And he's a nice enough guy. These people, you know, they're not the devil, they don't have tails and they don't have horns and stuff like that. But they've already sacrificed their honor because they're already going to be bought and paid for. And my present opponent is a nice guy, he's a firefighter. He told the public audience the other day that he doesn't know anything about the specifics. He doesn't know. A $9 billion budget, and he doesn't know any of the specifics. Are you out of your mind? I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, you know, I know how to fix this problem. I know how we can convert that Indigent County Healthcare Fund, get it spent down, get about $5 billion for transportation so that we can fix what's broken and do all these roads. That's jobs, that's paying the rent, that's putting food on the table, and your taxes don't go up a penny. The only thing these people know how to do is raise your taxes. That's the only thing they're good at. They don't fix anything. They can keep hiring, they hire workers. I think they're up to about 11,000, over 11,000 workers now. I think Hillsborough County is the 3rd or 4th largest employer in the county. So you have the school district's number 1 and the county's number 2 or 3. Government today in America, the GDP, about 40 to 41% of the entire GDP is government spending. We're halfway to socialism and we don't even know it. And so we have to change that. I know how to do that, and I've been telling people, say, look, the choices are clear. Choices in many of these races are very, very clear. If you like what we've got so far over the last 10 years, then don't vote for me. But if you want to change, if you want to have your government working for you, if you want to have your streets fixed, if you don't want to pay your taxes as much as they are now, if you want your property taxes rolled back, then I'm your guy. I don't know what else to tell people. It's the only message I know is the truth. It's what I did to my patients. My patients couldn't make a choice of what they wanted done with their health care unless I told them the truth. And politicians should be held to the same level of telling the truth and informed consent, and they're not. And so in a nutshell, that's why I run, and I tell people, you're gonna have people come and they're gonna promise you the earth and the moon. They're gonna promise you, I've had one candidate, he said, you have to vote for me because I look like you. I think he was black. It was Sean Shaw. I'm not kidding. It's like, this is what we are up against. And you know, if that's what you want, well then, don't be surprised when your taxes go up. Because he's already told you he's gonna raise your taxes. My opponent, Chris Bowles, endorsed the last transportation sales tax. He endorsed Democratic candidates versus Republican candidates because those Democratic candidates were gonna vote to increase your property taxes. And Harry Cohen did. He was one of 2 votes last year when they were trying to increase your property taxes. He voted for increasing your property taxes a mill. I know how to decrease them. Today, the Postal Service increased stamps up to 73%, I think it is now?
73 cents.
73 cents.
Oh, yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, it was 50 cents.
25.
Right.
That's what that is
I
a
remember
perfect
13.
example
I remember.
of what we call government inflation. How many ever heard of the term government inflation?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know what it is.
Does everybody know what the municipal cost index is? Municipal cost index is kind of like the CPI for government. And it's really weird because it's always like 3 or 4 points higher than the CPI. And that's because they have all the inefficiencies already baked in. But there's so many, and it's not rocket science. We're talking common sense. They have economic development. So they have all this money and all these tax things going out to corporations. To maintain your roads, every year for the past 10 years, the inflation rate for that was 10%. Don't you think it would be a good idea to have an economic development to bring more concrete and steel factories and those kind of industries that we need to hold down government inflation? Jobs are the same.
Down to 1 minute.
And those are the little things, and then it goes on and on. Citizens Advisory, or Citizens Budget Committee to go over these things, to keep down the budget. The budget right now is the administrator makes the budget out, and next week, she's gonna deliver the budget to them, and she may or may not have a rollback baked in. But if she doesn't, she's already spent all the money they estimate that they're gonna get over the next fiscal year. And then it's up to the Board of County Commissioners to take stuff out before they roll back the taxes. And how many know what opting out and opting in, what that does? If you have to opt out, you get more participation in an event or a system. So basically, she has set up an opting out for your property taxes. So they should tell them in December, Bonnie, we want to roll back the taxes 0.1 or 0.2 mils this year. She makes the budget that way, and if she gets to the point in July and says, you know, I really need at least another, 0.005 mils. And she has to opt in for your property taxes. That in itself will just lower your property taxes, roll it back. So I appreciate the time and I appreciate the effort, and it's only gonna get worse, folks, let me tell you. You think it's been bad so far? The last 4 weeks is gonna be helter-skelter. You'll all have blisters on your fingers. So, thank you very much for coming and listening to me, and thank you very much. Oh, yeah, sure. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions? Any questions in the room?
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna throw someone else at you?
I have one.
Sure,
I
Jen.
have one. Where did you find out that information regarding the hidden money for the indigent?
For the indigent? Well, I was on the Indigent County Healthcare Board, so I know where to look for it. Every 2 years, the clerk of the courts has to audit the Indigent County Healthcare Fund. You can pull it up on your phone. The latest one came out this past June for FY22 and FY23, and it's amazing. The other thing they don't do is they never show you more than a couple of years of taxes or revenues or expenses. They're supposed to go back 10 years, and it's supposed to be visualized all at one time, but they don't do that. And so you can actually trace it. 5 years ago, it was probably only about 100 million. And that's how fast it's been accumulated. They're taking care of fewer people now on the Indigent County Healthcare Plan than when I was on the board back in 2005. That's how, it's just crazy.
Is this countywide or federal?
It's countywide. It's a 0.5 sales tax that we pay. It started in 1991, was passed by the board. It can only be changed now by referendum. But it was just supposed to help Indigent County healthcare people, or Indigent County indigents by definition. And it was like 100, 110% of the federal poverty level. And now it's at 175% of the federal poverty level, and they're taking care of less people now than when it was 110. And that's because things have gone, you have Obamacare and you have a whole pile of different things. At one point, if you had felony convictions, you couldn't participate. But they changed that, and now you can. In fact, now they want to use that money to pay for prisoners. That's one of the reasons they're holding on to this money, and they haven't changed it, is Chad wants to build a 100-bed drug treatment center in the jails. And they're gonna try to use this money. It's legal to do that. Attorney General Charlie Crist, Polk County, asked him that question about almost 20 years ago, and they said, yeah, you can use it for paying for prisoners' health care, because by definition, prisoners are indigent. But it's funny, at one point, if you were convicted of a felony, you couldn't participate. Yeah. I think that's why they did it. And now when the Democrats control the board, they did away with that rule. So, if anybody comes in and asks you and promises you something, just ask them how they're gonna pay for it. And I guarantee you they're not gonna be able to tell you.
During the last, the phony pandemic, there were a lot of things that were done by the county that were basically unconstitutional. Would you, if elected a board, would you be a constitutional officer willing to enforce the Constitution so that his citizens of Hillsborough County are not subjected to outrageous edicts that took place during the phony pandemic?
Oh, without a question, I can tell you right now, while they were doing that, I was saying, kind of like the mask mandates, that was BS.
Yeah.
We knew it wasn't true. In fact, it finally came out, they just made it up.
Yeah.
When they had the medical school out there at USF make that presentation, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that, they didn't have the distancing and people didn't wear masks and they didn't have the lockdown, that all these people were gonna get infected and die. when you did the calculations, they would have had about 1 million more cases than there are people in the area. It was bullshit. But you had to have somebody on the board
Right.
that understood at least something about medicine. And that's why I stood down in front of Tampa City Hall when Castor was gonna make the vaccines mandated, or you had to do all that stuff, and I said, they can't make it mandated. First of all, the vaccines don't do what they say. That was before all the other stuff came out about it. And they do it out of panic, and you can't panic. And that's why you need somebody that's used to working under those kind of conditions, and just like some of the military.
Sure.
When you work under those things and you have stress. The Secret Service, you saw some Secret Service people that knew what they were doing this past week, and you saw some that didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything else, but, you know, if I was on that board, a lot of that stuff wouldn't have happened, because there was no one on there to tell the truth.
Can I get one quick follow-up question?
Very quick.
We have a sheriff right now who will not enforce the law on illegal immigrants that are committing crimes. Would you, as a board of county commissioners, band together and force the sheriff to actually do his job, or take action, remove him from his position?
Yeah, I mean, the Board of County Commissioners can't force him to do that, but I find
Take his
it
budget.
remarkable
His budget.
that Andrew Warren was removed by our governor
Yes,
because he wouldn't enforce the law.
right.
Yet, our
Crimes are-
Republican sheriff, who will not enforce the immigrant laws,
Yeah,
he gets a free pass.
it's wrong.
So all I can do is have the sheriff come in and publicly explain why he's not gonna do that. That's all you can
That's all we
do.
want. You refuse to come in office.
You gotta tell us, I mean, otherwise we'll have to get in a fight. Now, the law says that if he says he needs something in his budget, we're supposed to give it to him within reason, or we can make an appeal to the state, and then the state will say one way or the other. But the bottom line is he's gotta tell the public why he's not enforcing these laws, and 47 other counties in the state are.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Thank you.
ridiculous. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your endorsement.
Yeah, we didn't just give the endorsement, he totally deserved it, so.